And this is where we get interactive. We've got the little card. Now I want you to turn to the side of the card that has the Sanctuary logo on it. And you've got a, it asks you to name the 3 people that you admire most in your life and the trait that you most admire about them. Now, this can be someone that's alive, dead, fictional, historical. It doesn't make any difference who it is. So, for instance, if I put Mother Teresa down, I'd put Mother Teresa down, and I would put compassion, or I'd put unconditional love. So take the time and choose 3 people, and right next to them, choose the trait about them that you most admire. And when you're all done, if you can just look up at me, I'll know you're all ready to go.
Living?
They can be living, dead. They don't even have to be real people. It can be a hobbit, so it can be whatever you want. Just any person you admire and whatever their trait is that you admire. And the most important piece is that you write down the trait that you most admire, the compassion, the love, the joy, the laughter, whatever that is. Can everyone hear me all right? Does this sound a little bit better now with this? Okay, great. Good. All right. Looks like everyone's done. Well, you know that for some of us, some of our most potent and powerful aspects of ourselves, traits of ourselves, we actually hide from ourselves. They're actually in our shadow. And when I talk about shadow, I mean it's that part of ourself where we put pieces of ourself that somewhere along the line we were told we're not okay. We're not okay. We had shame about them. So we hid them, we shunned them, we disavowed them, we locked them away in sort of that subconscious dungeon. And oftentimes we did this unconsciously. It wasn't always a conscious choice to do that. And a lot of us are familiar with shadow work, and we associate it with those negative, heavier aspects, the rage or the jealousy or the obsessiveness. But I want to tell you that just as often we shove aside and put the most glorious gifts and beauty and our light in our shadow as well. And that makes sense. We can all maybe remember either for ourselves or we've seen this happen where maybe little Johnny is strutting around boasting like little, 4-year-olds do. And somebody really unconsciously tells him, who do you think you are? Too big for your britches, right? Don't be such a show-off. Or little Mary, she's all proud of herself and she shows her little picture with, green skies and, purple seas, and somebody laughs at her and tells her she's not really that good of an artist. Right? And all of a sudden, all these gifts, all this beauty just goes off in our shadow. And it just sits there until somebody comes along that we think, wow, that person's amazing. And we just project out onto them all those gifts that are ours because we want to see them. We want to see them. I'm going to read to you something that many of you may have heard before. You cannot hear this enough. It's by Marianne Williamson. And she wrote this for Nelson Mandela in his 1994 inaugural speech, first Black president of South Africa. It's pretty phenomenal. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and famous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not in just some of us. It is in all of us. And when we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give it to other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Amen to that. So it is, right? So it is. So those 3 traits that you wrote down, they are you. Those 3 traits are absolutely 100% without a doubt you. And whether they are just seeds, or they are flourishing plants, or they are gardens in you, they still need to be recognized and loved and nurtured and taken care of and recognized so that they can grow. You have no excuse. We need you, and we need those gifts. Now I want you all to just choose one. Just choose one of the traits. Not the person, but the trait. Just one trait out of the 3. And I just want you to give a little bit of thought right now to what, if anything, is standing between you and that trait, that aspect, that part of you. What obstacle, what roadblock might be standing in your way? And you know, roadblocks and obstacles come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. They mostly like to sneak in as disempowering beliefs. You know, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve it, it's okay for him, but not for me. Sometimes our blocks are our addictions, codependency, and sometimes they're really, really clear, like that relationship that it's time to go, right? It's no longer working, or a job, or an environment. In my own life, In my own life, when I first did this exercise a few years ago, the person that I put down was my partner and my love, Dean. And the trait that I loved most about Dean was his passion for his sacred purpose. And anyone that knows Dean knows this man is committed and passionate to his sacred purpose. And oh, that was the sexiest thing I think I'd ever met in my life. And at that point in my life, I had just gotten out of a 10-year marriage. I was still living in Scottsdale, and I still had a law practice. And I was just beginning to find my sacred purpose and my passion. I was just beginning to have this inkling that I'd really love to teach, and I'd really love to be involved in the healing work, the energy work that had begun to heal me. And I thought, that's just for Dean, it's not for me. There's no way I can quit my job. I have bills and a responsibility. I just got divorced. I mean, I've got a lot of stuff happening. And I thought there was no way that I was going to really be able to have a sacred purpose. Nor did I have any trust that the universe, even though I meditated and prayed, I didn't really believe that the universe was going to hold me sweetly. I thought I was going to take a risk and follow my ass, and I wasn't going to make it. So I had a trait I loved, sacred purpose, commitment and passion, and I had a limiting belief that was standing in my way. So for you, on the back of that card, you'll find that you've been asked as well to take that trait that you chose, that one trait, and just give it a little bit of thought. What might be standing? And for some of you, there might not be any obstacle, but give it some thought. What might be an obstacle that's standing behind that which you are becoming, that which you already are, and growing in you, and getting to that point. When you're done, you can just look at me. I'll know you're done. All right. Well, thank you guys for doing this. It's important. It's important for us to know what our beauty is, and it's also important just to have an awareness, not that we have to do anything about it right now, but just an awareness of maybe those obstacles that are in our way, because some of us walk around really bewildered why we want abundance and don't have it. You know, we want to love and we don't have it. Well, it's because sometimes we have some roadblocks there. Now I want you to do one more thing, and this is actually kind of fun, is I want you to give some thought now back to that one trait, the one trait that you chose, and give some thought as to what is the next right action step you can take to moving towards that. And I really mean the next right action step, which can most likely mean a baby step. You know, it doesn't have to be a big giant leap, just a baby step. You all know Martin Luther King's statement, just take the next step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just the next step. And the next step, you know, many of you sitting out there might know exactly what it is. It might be working on that obstacle you just figured out, right? You may now have a next right step. It might be really clear. You sat in this room today, and you might have been inspired, like, my God, I've got to meditate, I've got to do yoga. I want to go to the crop circles. I'm definitely going to Dr. Joe's workshop tomorrow. You may know what your next right step might be. You just might know it's obvious for you guys. And there might be others of you out there that are looking up at me frustrated and maybe a little discouraged because you're like, Kelley, man, I know I want more abundance or more happiness in my life, and I've tried everything. It's not like I've just taken the next right step. I have climbed staircase after staircase after staircase, and here I am sitting here, and I don't have that which I really want in my life. And I really empathize with you guys. Really empathize. And I want to just gently and so respectfully ask you what somebody very dear to me at the time that I had these issues asked me, really, have you really tried everything? Have you really taken every next right step? Because so many of us, including myself, I did everything except give up that sacred cow. You know, I danced around and I did everything except pay attention to that 800-pound gorilla that was in the middle of my room. And for me, that was a marriage that I needed to leave. You know, I started having a lot of anxiety and panic attacks, which I had never had, towards the end of my marriage. And I want to be very clear, this is about me and not my husband. He was a good man. We just were not meant to be. However, at the end of this marriage, I was feeling these panic attacks, and I went to doctors and nutritionists and healers and shamans. I mean, I did everything. And it didn't go away. And that was because I was not able to really look at the one thing that really I needed to do, and that was start the steps to leave this marriage. Because I was still stuck in all those stories of fear and abandonment and betrayal. But I can tell you that once I started making those steps towards giving up my sacred cow, can I tell you I've not had one panic attack or anxiety attack since that time. It's amazing how that works. So I would just ask you, if you're sitting out there thinking, I've tried it all, that there might be just a possibility that you haven't. And finally, there might be those of you that are looking at your trait and you're thinking, you know what, I haven't tried everything, and I don't know what my next right step is because I have absolutely no idea what my next right step is. I have no idea. I am clueless as to what to do. And to those of you, I say I really relate to that too. And I will tell you the answer is so sweet and so simple that when you're in that place, if you really do want an answer, all you have to do is go into that heart space and ask. All you have to do is surrender and ask. It's amazing what happens when you are quiet and pray or meditate or whatever you do, but you go in and you ask. And I can promise you, as I'm standing up here, and I wouldn't say this lightly, you will always, always, always get an answer. Always. And it may not be a bolt of lightning or some big, obvious, linear answer to your issue. But you will always give the next right step, and most likely it will surprise and delight you. You maybe open up a book that you've been reading, and it will fall to that page with that one quote that inspires you. And you have an idea, and you know what then the next right step is. Or you might have a friend that you haven't heard from in a long time call you out of the blue, and they tell you about the Heart Wisdom Conference, and you show up, and you hear a speaker, and then you want to go buy their book, or you want to go to their workshop, and all of a sudden, doors open, and then the next right step happens. And what's really incredibly beautiful is pretty soon you are taking so many next right steps, and you're having such a good time that you forgot where you were going because the journey is so much fun in the meantime. And that is where the magic happens. The next right step becomes your destination. And for me, this was a big piece of my story. Going back to what I had shared with you earlier, I knew I had a sacred purpose. You know, the flames were being lit in my heart. I was starting to get excited. I knew for sure I did not want to be a lawyer. God forbid I didn't. No offense to any lawyers out there, but it wasn't my sacred purpose. And I knew that I wanted to do this, but I didn't know how. I had those disempowering beliefs that I couldn't. You know, I had financial stuff and everything else. So I did this because someone told me to. I surrendered and I asked. And I am not kidding you when I tell you that a week after doing this, I found myself on a plane to Peru, of all places. And I was going to study with some Caro and some other energy practitioners just for a vacation. And by the time I came home, I had quit my job, and I was packed up and ready to come to Sedona because of those next right steps. And the next right step is I find my beloved, I live at the sanctuary, I do a work that I love, and I never in a million years thought I'd be standing up here talking in front of you just a few years ago. I mean, talk about the next right step, right? It's pretty exciting stuff. So this is the final exercise for you guys. The final question on the back of your sheet is, what is your next right step? And all of you can write something. If it's just surrender and ask. Just surrender and ask. Because this is a commitment that you're making to yourself. And there's no greater commitment that you can be making right now than one that you're making to yourself. And what I want you to do is, you've got your trait. So you've got to more fully become, for me it was to more fully become, passionate and stepping into my sacred purpose. I commit myself to ask and surrender. And what I want each of you to do is turn to the person next to you. And I want you to either pair up, or you can join a group of 3 or 4. It doesn't make any difference. And what I want you to do is, I want you to share what your trait is, who you are fully becoming, and I want you to share your commitment. And I'll tell you why. Because we must be sacred witnesses to ourselves right now. We must hear and be heard who our higher future selves are. This is vitally important that we share who we are becoming with one another, rather than constantly sharing all of our wounds and all of our problems and all that we no longer want to be. So we only have a few moments for this, so turn to the person and just share your trait and what your commitment is. And I hate to cut it short, but we need to keep moving on. So if you can just share. All right, we can just all come back together and the beautiful thing is afterwards you can all connect up with your new or old friends and all right. You can all just come back together and take a look at me. All right, great. All right. Well, I invite each of you have 2 more traits, maybe some of you even wrote more, to please go home and do this exercise with them. It's really, really important that we start stepping into our power right now and that we fully embrace our gifts. This isn't selfish or self-centered. It's not indulgent. It's a necessity right now. And I look around this room, and you had an opportunity to connect. We are in a room full of really amazing and beautiful and powerful and gifted people. And I will tell you that the more that you embody and fully become these pieces that are already in you, they're not some distant future self. They're here in you right now. The more you do that, the more coherent you become. The more coherent you become. And the more coherent that you become, the more you begin to really know and believe that you're important and that your life, your unique and specific life, is so purposeful and meaningful that only you can do what you came here to do. And that you don't have any excuses and any back doors anymore to not do that. So I invite each of you to take that time and give yourself the time to fully get to know and embody and believe in yourself. Because when you start believing in yourself, you'll start believing in other people. And you'll start believing that this world we live in isn't such a chaotic mess that I started with, right? And we'll start looking up and we'll start seeing blue skies again, and we won't be seeing that crazy tic-tac-toe aerosol spraying anymore. And when we go to the grocery store, we'll be buying food that's full of life force energy. That we will believe in our government because we'll know that they are there to be of service to us. That we come together to cooperate, to cheer one another's on. We're no longer being pulled and pushed out of competition and scarcity and ugliness and hate. And you'll begin to know this because you know it in yourself. It is who you are. Well, I'm hoping that we're all in a more coherent state. I know we are. There's no way we couldn't be after this weekend. And so if you would just join me, we have just a few minutes left. But I think it's really important that when we gather together in groups, and I don't care if it's a group of 1 or 2, that we really start practicing that Maharishi effect together. I feel like we're called to do that. So we are here together, and I just invite all of you to take that breath and to go into that heart space. And with that focused, heart-based intention, that coherent state, I want you to send out all the love and healing and compassion or whatever is important to you out into this world, and I want you to set your intent to send it out to everyone. There's no us or them. Everyone gets it. And I want you to send it out to our sweet, sweet mother who is so patient with us bumbling folk. And let her know that she is loved and we are here to serve her. And we're just going to do this in silence together for just a few minutes. I want to thank all of you for showing up at this planet, at this time, and this conference at this time. Thank you for listening to me and being here for one another. I feel great hope, and I have to tell you my heart is very full. And I send each one of you just great blessings and great love. Thank you.